I tend to stay in character. So if something untoward happens, it's not something that I notice. It's something that my character notices, and something my character will comment on. I try to really be present and very much be listening to whatever my acting partners are giving me, and so once that character is has a place in your brain, you just react according to that character.
Welcome back to Puppeteers. We're your hosts, Adam Krutinger
and Cameron Garrity.
And today we're bringing back the one and only Martin Robinson. Welcome back to the show.
Hi. That was a very professional introduction.
Oh, thank you.
That's the most professional we'll be this whole time.
Good to see you. I'm glad to be here.
And the introduction isn't over yet. Go ahead. Take it away, Cam.
Sure. So, Marty from a past episode of Puppeteers, as well as, of course, all of his work on Sesame Street as Telly Monster and Slimy and Snuffy, from newer projects like Apple TV Plus's and Sesame Workshop's The Helpsters, where he performs Mr. Primm.
For five
Emmys.
You did your homework. Excellent.
Yes.
I found that out this morning.
Oh, yes, and congratulations, because that was really excellent. And then, of course, things like his project All Hallows Eve, Little Shop of Horrors, and so many other puppet projects in between. So, Martin Robinson, welcome back to Puppeteers.
Puppeteers? You do the visual for that?
We do just at the opening and closing.
Okay. Jim Krupa gave you the idea for that, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. He let us borrow it. We're test driving the title for his book.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
I got an icon from him this morning. He's shaved his head.
No way.
Yeah.
Strange things people are doing.
Oh my goodness. Well, we're having him back in a couple of weeks, actually, because we're coming up on 2 years in our 50th episode. So he's going to be coming back.
He shaved his head, but did he shave his face? That's what
No. He still has his fancy beard.
Okay, good.
Excellent.
At least he did in the cartoon icon that he sent. I haven't seen him actually in person.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Well, before
Awesome.
we get too far into it, so what's going on with you right now?
Right now?
Yeah.
I'm kind of a professional gardener. I'm sculpting the land. My hands are sore every day, and from pulling invasive trees. I have pulled thousands of invasive trees out of. I'm kind of clearing out a whole area. I pulled a picture of this place like just before I bought it, and the forest over there. It looks like a real forest with beautiful big old growth trees and very little undergrowth and just healthy forest. And I look at it now, and it's just overgrown with invasive species. There's a thing called eusebia, there's barberry, but mostly it's this thing called Japanese bittersweet, which was brought over as an ornamental thing and escaped, and it twists around trees and chokes them. And a number of years back, I took a walk through the forest and realized that it was dead. It was a dead forest, and what was the up in the crowns of the trees was this Japanese bittersweet. Looking, just using the dead tree as a building block, and so I've been cutting that stuff, and then an almost tornado came through about 2 years ago and just wiped everything out. So it's just a mess in there. So
I
I've
believe
been cleaning that out.
And you're in Connecticut?
I'm in Connecticut,
Okay.
Just south of Danbury, in the middle of nowhere. It's called Reading. But it's really just little towns dotted in the woods. There's the town center is a church.
That's wild.
So I'm doing a lot of gardening. I'm doing a lot of karate. I'm building up for my 4th degree black belt test. I doing a lot of cooking, which is pretty much always fun. And trying to get little 11-year-olds to eat.
Yeah.
And we're producing some stuff for Sesame Street here. We did a thing called Elmo's virtual play at home play date, something like that we all did little parts from in our homes. We've been doing ADR for Helpsters, which I have a little setup, a sound recording setup in my closet.
Yeah, you know, I was just watching that. I think one of them actually just dropped today that we're recording this. It's called a new mini series on YouTube called Helpsters Help You.
Yes.
Yes.
Just those are things that we shot from here at home.
Yeah, it was super cute. It was Cody, and you saw her on a screen like she was zooming, like we are now. And then the little profile icons of Mr. Primm, Hart, and the other characters came up, and then they all started singing, and it was so cute. It was such a perfect little example to a kid of how people are communicating now.
And then actually Stephanie DeBruzzo had her Cody before everything shut down for I think some live event that she was doing, but they didn't get the rest of the puppets to the rest of us, so we had to do, you know, voiceover stuff and put the icons on. Unlike what they did with Sesame Street, where they actually sent us all the puppets, and some equipment to actually shoot them. So I shot just on spec a thing with Telly. I'll send you the link.
It was beautiful. Oh my gosh!
You saw it?
Oh yeah. It was on Facebook and all over on YouTube and such. When he was in the blanket fort.
Yeah, in the blanket fort.
Yeah, it was, and I'll tell you, people like John Little, Austin, Valerie Meese, everybody was sharing it and just saying like how wonderful it was. Obviously, because we all know you, but also just to see that neurotic little monster under the blanket like that. It was such a lovely, you know, tender little piece of puppetry. It was fantastic.
It's amazing to me that that it gets out there. I mean, I do it and I send it into Sesame, just saying, you know, hey, I shot this. What do you think? But that people are actually finding it and watching it is more just as amazing to me that Sesame accepted it in the first place. So thanks for.
Hey, thank you.
I don't have a grasp about how things are spread around and shared like that, but
it's happening. Whether or not you want it to happen, sometimes it's going to happen anyway.
There's two more. There's two more of the Telly under the blanket in his little comfort area.
Oh, great.
Yeah. I was watching that too, and it really brought me back to being a kid, because it was exactly like the feeling you got as a kid when you did that kind of stuff. I really felt like I was like in his mind, you know. It wasn't trying to relate to kids. It just was exactly what a kid would do. It was perfect. And
it's exactly what I would have done. And then the story that Telly tells about his, you know, sitting with his mom, you know, coming to my office. That's just verbatim my mom's story.
Okay. Yeah, well, we'll definitely keep an eye out. But you were telling us before we got recording about the unique setup that you had to have in shooting your Telly bits. Can you tell us about that? Because it was really ingenious.
Oh no, it's not ingenious. It's just sad and silly. But it's, you know, what I had. What I have is the Apple. One of the producers of Helpsters sent us really good phones. I got a really nice iPhone 11. Not, you know, that they gave me was because I wouldn't have gotten one. My old iPhone, whatever it was, worked just fine. So what I do is I set up the iPhone on a tripod, and then I set up my old Panasonic Mini DV reel-to-reel behind it, shooting into the picture on the back of the camera, and then I have all the RCA cables that hook up to that and my monitor. So, you know, getting everything set up, and you know, you record one and you hit one, and then one phases out, and then the Panasonic is going out of focus, going on
Oh.
focus, like, okay, which
Right.
one is out of focus? But it's, I kind of like shooting things by the skin of my teeth, and I also kind of like sometimes the rough edges.
Yeah.
I did all kinds of films for the Sesame website. That was like a film a week, and I kind of learned to embrace just the things you get, and okay, that's what you got, so that's the deal. You gotta make that work.
Yeah, and you know what? We're so lucky to even have that as an option. Before, filming anything was such a huge production, and it still can be. But the thing is, we all have really good cameras right in our phone. I did a video not too long ago on my YouTube channel about how to make an entire little puppet video on your phone and how to edit it on your phone. You can film, edit, and upload it all straight from your phone.
I did exactly that with the telefilms.
Yeah.
And there's another project I've been working on for years. Taxi Dog. I don't know if
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I've mentioned that, because he built the most brilliant mechanics for this thing. I've got him. He's actually sitting over there. If you want to take a break at some point, I could strap him on.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we'd love that.
He's got.
You want to grab him now? Or is not a good time? We can do it later.
I could take a minute, but it's a thing of beauty. So when we've been shooting, anyway, the producer of that dropped him off here, and we shot 3 little films with him. One about washing hands with my daughter Ripley, and one of my daughter's friends is actually part of our germ pool here. We shot a thing about her, playing games, and then we did one for a New York State and New York City had a contest for films about mask wearing that had to be 30 seconds. So we shot one of those, and I feel like I can send you that one. So
That would be great. Yeah, and we could include it for people to see and in the edit and stuff. That's awesome. Yeah, we've heard great tales of the Taxi Dog in Krupa's mech class over the years, and I think he has like a prototype for the tongue, one of the tongue triggers and some other things. Yeah.
If you're interested, I can bring that thing over and show you the whole darn thing. Soup to nuts, if you like.
Yeah, let's see.
Yeah, we would love that.
That's what we're all about.
One of the really nice things about having this thing here and using it for the first time is that the producers popped to have this thing built. Not only this, but 2 of them, 2 full working Taxi Dogs. I have no idea what kind of built by the Henson Creature Shop, and at what cost I have no idea. But I was in on the design and the kind of checking it out and stuff, and I made kind of a little impassioned speech to all the team that was getting ready to put it together, which was you have an opportunity here. You guys have an opportunity to bring out all your powers of creativity, as far as the mechanics go and the design and what this thing can be. They were willing to pay for it and go for it. They had that kind of budget to build this thing, and so it was Krupa just built the most beautiful stuff ever. And it's so nice to have it's been.
And don't let this fool the audience's eyes, because it looks, just from holding it up, it looks relatively simple, even though it is beautiful. But the amount of mechanics that are in there is mind-numbing.
I'm going to show you the mechanics in a minute, but I wanted to get a sense of the character first. He's kind of a mutt. The premise of the project is that he rides shotgun in a taxi, in a New York City taxi. And has no words. Is not it's not a talking dog, but he's very, very empathetic, as those of you with dogs know that they can be. but he's maybe a little bit more empathetic than your average dog, and King Canton basically kind of susses out people's troubles and problems and finds ways to solve them. So I'm gonna anyway. It's such a gorgeous puppet, and it's never worked. We have never sold this project. I'm gonna lift the mechanics for you. So you can see
oh my God!
All the tubes. These are all Teflon tubes. They're all mechanics that go into here, but it's all. I mean, there's not one battery. There's not one piece of electricity. There's nothing. It's just tubes.
Would you typically need more than one performer to fully animate it?
Yes, it takes 3 performers. 4 if you want to work the pause. So it was not cheap to build, I'm sure, although I do not know the cost, and not cheap to perform. Although at this point, I just to do the project, just to actually see it come to fruition, I would be happy to do. Hold on. Let me get this. I need to untangle these, as Jim Krupa will be. God, Jim, are you watching this?
He's definitely not watching this.
No.
Anyways,
As we always say, it's the 3 of us and John Little.
Anyway, having this and just shooting the 3 little films that I shot, it's so nice having this dog work. All right, I'm going to put him on.
It's like preparing for surgery.
Oh, are you kidding?
Yeah.
He's not light because he has so many points of animation inside. So right here, this is the joystick that I usually work when I'm working him. And this is, he's a little bit more light in his face.
Yeah, we're seeing the eyes shift back and forth, the pupils there. Yeah. Oh, and there, and closing. Oh, great.
Upper lid, so he has upper lid, lower lids. Of course, they can meet. Left, right, up, down with this joystick. The lids, lower lids here, upper lids here. I'm not getting a real straight line of contact. So now this console, worked by one whole other person, is ears up, ears down, ears rotate.
Oh my God.
So ears rotate, ears up, rotate forward, down, anything you want in that range. And of course, they both do that.
Yeah.
And that's just working this up, and the thumb, and rotating like that. Okay, then you've got this. You've got inner brow, outer brow. Both up, both down. One outer down, outer up, inner down, inner up. And that's on these that you would work. So you've got all that brow stuff, that makes dog expressive. Of course, there's 2 of those for both sides. You've got this lovely little shot of gray in there. Maxie's a mutt, so it really shows it up very nicely.
Wow. Yeah, I don't think you'd be using this puppet for much improv.
No.
It's got to be a well choreographed dance between all these performers, I imagine.
We actually did a whole promotional thing. We went down to Atlanta for a big conference for production of some kind. I forget what the name of the conference was, but we had a booth, and it was Krupa and Liz Para and I, and we were just talking to the passers-by, not talking, but interacting with them, and we were just winging it, and that was when we finally got a chance to really unlimber this thing, and
yeah,
you'd have to kind of.
That's probably the best way to practice. I guess when I said that, more so if film is rolling, you're not going to just be playing like that. You'd want to be more choreographed with it, I imagine.
Yeah, but I worked with Tim Lagasse and I did the pilot with who did we have? I think was it Hara working the pilot? Maybe, and if you get the right people, and you can.
Oh yeah, there's the tongue movement you were talking about too, Cam. How is that one controlled?
I was gonna say, was that with your? Oh, okay, it's on
another one of these. So it's got back and forth, and then in and out. Wow. So you can do it to the side. Let gravity take it that way, or let gravity take it this way. And then it's got this little tooth thing here that.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Where he can drop his teeth for that or a bit of a smile. It almost reads as a lip lifting more because of course teeth don't drop, lips lift, and that's from inside on a little one of these
with your right hand. Yeah.
Yeah. So upper lids, lower lids, eyes, left, right, up, down, inner brow, outer brow, ears rotate, ears up, tongue in, out, wag, and teeth, and then a whole set of rods that go to the hands for stuff, and of course the tail for the rod.
I love that though, and what you were talking about before with having those additional performers, and especially in that situation with Jim and Liz, where you guys were just playing, it reminds me of I feel like any time that I've done any kind of 3-person puppet, usually it's more something like a tabletop, or actually when I was working at the O'Neill with you for the All Hallows Eve, the first time you did it at the O'Neill, once you could get your performers to dance with the puppet and just kind of have that flow where everybody knows what each other's going to do, and you start to anticipate it, just you get in that zone, and there's nothing like it in puppetry. It's so hard to describe to people, but anyone who's been there knows what that experience feels like.
And even learning the limits of the puppet as well.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah. So we just set what this dog is, for instance, and what he can do, what his personality is, how smart, how intuitive, and then you push all those parameters to their limits and see where you can go. After a while, I mean, as you know, you don't have to really give a lot of notes to your team.
Right.
Team, gets this, the team gestalt that. It becomes something greater than all the separate parts. I mean, I haven't given Pam Arciero a note on telly in 20 years.
That's actually a really great segue into something that I wanted to talk a little bit with you about, but was your work on Helpsters with Mr. Primm. And again, congratulations on all of the acclaim that show has received, especially with yesterday coming out with the nominations. But his hands are like the craziest thing I have ever seen, and it's so much fun. But you also kind of like you think about all the horror stories you hear of people who are right-handing going awry, and there's a clear level of precision in what Jim is doing, and it's really on the beat with everything that Mr. Primm says. But can you talk about how that decision was made and how you guys got into that rhythm?
So you know that's Jim. You
Yes.
know that's Jim from talking to Jim, or is that?
Yeah, I was in his Met class last summer at the O'Neill, and he mentioned he kept saying how he was doing hands for Marty's main character and how you two were having a blast together.
We had a blast. I'd forgotten that he had time to do the O'Neill.
Yeah, he stole away for those 3 days for the pre-conference, and but then he was back to work.
And I had to do with somebody else probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, working with Jim, and I've known Jim for ages. I just love him, and it's so nice having an opportunity to do this character that's so much a part of he and I together. And yeah, Mr. Primm's hands are every time they just make me laugh when I see the playbacks. They're just so flowery and so they match his character, they match his speech, they match his movement patterns. He's a delightful character to work. I have so much fun doing that. And between scenes, he is very outrageous character. He stays in character all the time, and when you're that proper and that tightly put together, there's just no end to fun that you can have with the cast and crew, and the guest stars are delightful too.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of something that we talked about last time, where you told us a story about how Mike Myers came to the set for Sesame Street, and he was super tired because he was up all night writing for SNL. And you had mentioned that that the performers, like, you guys work with them, and if they're not up fully into it, you'll kind of eat them alive. And what this kind of reminds me of is, again, that playfulness that you're talking about on the set of Helpsters. And one thing I'm wondering, and it made me start thinking about, is professionalism and like the interpretation of that, like when to be serious and when to be playful, because being playful is part of being professional in this, in the same way there's camaraderie amongst coworkers in any industry. And where is that line, and how do you find it?
It's a very interesting idea, because you have different people, and people bring different sets of professionalism and different sets of nerves. Some people that you wouldn't think would be nervous about something like that, or come in and they're rather tightly wound. Other people just haven't given it a thought, and are saying, "Oh, it's a kids show. How hard could it be?" And we have a certain level of professionalism that we work with, and if you don't come up to that level, we'll.
Yeah.
But then again, you got to really suss the person out.
Yeah.
You gotta. All right, is this a person? How far can I push? What are they willing to play? Is this a set of nerves that if I push they're going to crack, or if I push they're going to play more? And so you try little inroads, and you crack the surface, and you see if they're happy to go there.
Yeah. Well, and another thing is too, even like, I mean, I hear you guys always talk about trying to make each other laugh and stuff, which is great fun. But on the other hand, film is rolling, and you only have so much time. At what points does that become an interruption versus just again a quality work environment?
Yeah, and yeah, and you really have to watch that,
Yeah.
because it can be so much fun, and the crew can be so highly entertained, and oh geez, I can make the crew laugh whenever I want to, but maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you should just get down to business and do your darn job.
I got dinner at 8 tonight. Yeah.
Yeah.
We gotta get out of here.
Everyone would like to is having a good time, but they'd like to go home someday. So you have to really balance that. I personally, I try to keep the level of joy in a studio as high as I can if I'm performing, without wasting any time.
Yeah.
And I think, oh, sorry, go ahead, Adam.
No, go ahead, Cam.
Oh no, so this is more Fanny than I would usually want to get in an interview, but there's a moment from an A&E documentary that showed you behind the scenes as Telly in a scene with Bert and Ernie. And Bert was leaving the apartment for Telly to come in and play a rhyming game with Ernie. And they show a quick little take before tape started rolling. And you very expressly said, "I'm going to say hi to Bert." And maybe Eric didn't hear that, or maybe something happened, but you said, like, "Hey, Bert." And Bert just walked right by Telly. And you, as Telly, said, "He never talks to me."
Huh? There was a little awkward moment there when Bert leaves and Telly comes in.
We have to come down.
Oh yeah, we're not here.
The thing is
I'm gonna say hi to Bert.
Hey, Bert! Hey, Bert! He never talks to me.
Yeah.
Hey, Ernie! Hi, Telly!
And it was this hysterical moment. Everyone broke and puppets came down. But it's almost like you were... I always see that moment as one part you playing and ad-libbing and breaking, but you probably would have had to do that take anyway over again because Bert didn't address Telly. So like better to like have a good laugh and go back and restart than wasting probably more time of doing a full take before you then have to go back to square one again.
Yeah. We actually, when you have a lot of experience, you pretty much know when a take is busted. But then again, with edits, you can edit something out. You can cut to a different camera. Sometimes to save things, it's tricky. If something is horribly busted and it's a lost cause, you might have some fun with something. But I tend to stay in character. So if something untoward happens, it's not something that I notice. It's something that my character notices. Mm-hmm. It's something my character will comment on. I try to really be present and very much be listening to whatever my acting partners are giving me, and so once that character is has a place in your brain, you just react according to that character. Mr. Primm has been writing letters to the cast and crew from his quarantine in Primmlandia, and I really don't have to think hard because he's right there. And with Telly, it's even more so. I've been doing him so long that. We have a thing that Ryan Dillon does, and he's just brilliant at it when he's doing Elmo, because he's does a lot of Elmo. Sure. And he'll won't like a look, you won't have clocked the camera quite right, and he'll say go back shot, ready, beep beep beep. He'll just pick it up, and the editor makes a note, and then he saves so much time, and he'll say okay again. And he'll just keep on going. No stop tapes, no counting down, just minor little hiccups in the action, and he'll get his cuts just right, his looks just right, his got a lot of manipulation. So we're all doing that more and more to move production along.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. You know, one more example I guess I want your thoughts on too is in the cases when you have come up with an ad lib on the side, you know, or rather in the moment. When do you know whether or not it's appropriate to do that? Because even though, you know, the fact that you have that idea means it must be appropriate for the character in your eyes, you know, but then again, it's juggling that production side too of whether or not you want to interject that.
Well, those are things that I bring out in rehearsal.
Oh, okay.
You know, for the read through. If I have when I'm studying a script, I'll make notes. I'll you know, here's a funny ad lib, which, you know, it's really not an ad lib anymore. It's something that I've written into the script, but I'll drop it in and see if it flies. And if it seems to work, I'll say, should I leave that in? Or very often, with in the case of Helpsters, Tim McKeon is there, the creator, and he'll say, I like that, leave it in. And we'll write it in, and it's in after that point. And all the characters do that.
Yeah.
The cast is, you know, Tim McGath, Stephanie DeBruzzo, Ingrid Hansen, Jen Barnhart. They're brilliant performers, one and all. So there's a lot of that going on.
That's
and
awesome.
Yeah.
one of the cool things about Helpsters and the Helpsters scripts and the whole Helpsters premise is that it's very unusual. It's very almost unhinged in some ways.
Yeah.
It's a very strange, almost surreal show. The way the rooms are set up, you can go through any door at any time and end up anywhere. There's limitless rooms, and and you know, when you go through a door one time, it might be raining, and we'll go through that same door a moment later, and it's a jungle.
Yeah.
So.
And I love that. It's something that I really admire about when Tim did Crash and Bernstein. And I think you guys have an element of it here where not only are the puppets, you know, their standard puppet selves, but they have a level of being a living cartoon character that I feel like the Muppets don't really utilize for good reason. It's the world that they exist in, but there's something really like extra magical and, like you said, zany and whimsical about the Helpsters world, which is really excellent. It's so much fun.
Mr. Primm, who's this very tightly buttoned, you know, aristocrat, can stretch his arms out.
Oh yeah.
Almost infinitely, and his legs. He's got this strange ability to do this, and we will pull it out at the oddest times.
Wow, yeah, that might work
it's
well
so
in
much fun.
one of these quarantine episodes too. If he's stretching his arm out to hand somebody something, or hand something to Cody from wherever he is, that's really funny.
I need a longer set of rubber gloves, please.
Yes, yeah, that's hysterical.
You know, you got me thinking about something too, because you said when you were on the set for Helpsters, for instance, and you were that Mr. Primm was in character all day, or when you had Telly on. So for you mentally, when you know that you're going to have a full day of, let's say, Telly, do you do anything to access him before you have the puppet on?
I warm up my voice.
Oh, okay.
Telly will rip up your voice. You know, it's there's a lot of, you have to, you know, really get the gravel here and a lot of push on it. But this voice will rip you up by the end of the day. So vocal exercises. Once, you know, at the beginning of the season, I'll have a sore throat after most days. But then you kind of get calluses. I envision them as calluses on my vocal cord, and after a while, I can do it for a long period of time. There was once when we were recording. It was just an audio record for a live show, and it was a very thick script. was doing the entire thing. And by the end of the recording session, I was spitting up blood, which is probably not a good thing.
Oh my God.
Ever since then, if there's a big chunk of that type of recording, we'll divide it up according to days. Dave Rudman does that also with Cookie Monster, which really can rip up your voice a lot.
For sure.
So, but as far as character goes, no. There's a place in my brain. Again, it's a visualization that I have, but it's probably somewhat scientifically accurate. There's a place in my brain that's just Telly, and when I put him on, he's over there too. When I put him on, I just go there. It's just I access that easily. Same with Snuff.
Yeah.
They didn't send you Snuffy yet?
Say what?
They didn't send you Snuffy yet?
No, he's they'd have to. He's a bigger send.
Yeah, helicopter drop him to you.
For the crew, and and then they'd have to send Bryant as well.
Yeah, that's right. Of course.
We're not going to put one of my kids in the.
I was going to say the 11-year-old wouldn't fit back there.
They'll have to put a sheet of plastic between you and Bryant too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a meeting this morning. It was just this morning with all the puppeteers talking about what the new season might look like. What the rules might be, whether the new, we've got the new group, we call them the mentees that are coming along, 6 with 7 now. We added one actually today. What those rules might be, and whether you can be on a set just watching, or whether it's just the performers, whether we can have right hands anymore. Interesting questions like that. Whether you do all the rehearsal with a mask on, drop it for the microphone, put it back on. Who knows? We're just hoping and praying that we can get back into the studio safely by October.
Yeah. Yeah, we were just talking to Tim about that the other day. Tim Legas.
Yeah, Tim and Leslie.
Yeah,
Leslie.
Yeah, it's Tim and Leslie. That's right. Yeah, and one thing I was thinking, it'll just be all different. First of all, I think this, and my guess is a lot of these shoots, even whether it's new productions for movies or whatever, will try to be condensed, and maybe longer days if they can, just to get it done. And testing people before they get there. And I know one thing that he had said too is the testing takes too long, but my hope is by then there would be a faster testing process or a new testing process, because the one thing with what's going on is this is like the one time where everyone in the world is working on this one thing. So, I mean, things are moving quickly, but it's so unknown. And who knows what it's going to be like. You're right.
Yeah. Where we're now, we're supposed to be shooting a feature film now.
Yeah,
that's right.
Deep into production on the Sesame Street movie with Anne Hathaway, for goodness sake.
Yeah,
and
which was already a delayed project from last summer.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. And I mentioned this with Pam, but I was wondering your perspective as well. I know it's up to the writers for Sesame Street and then Helpsters if they go back into production with that as well, is how this I imagine there was ideas and plans for curriculum that might be completely different now because of the way the world is. Do you have any insight or thought into that?
No, but you're absolutely right. It's a it's a different world now than it was a year ago, 6 months ago. So any of the shows that we do, Sesame Street, Helpsters, anything that we do, it's always gonna, we're serving the world. We're not just, we're not working in a vacuum. Mm-hmm. So we're gonna have to figure out what the world needs, and how we serve that, what entertainment looks like now.
Yeah, and I think you guys, like I said before, you guys are kind of doing that, like with this video that just dropped today, this Helpsters Help You thing. And why it really resonated with me too is because I am a school teacher during the day, And I've been in these Zoom classes with kids, which if you said that 4 months ago that said you're going to be doing virtual like Zoom classes with kids, like that won't work. But it's remarkable to watch the whole class on a grid just like that. And then the kids are muting and unmuting themselves, a lot of visual signals like, oh, can everyone hear me? Thumbs up. And they just go like this because they don't have to unmute their phones. Unmute their devices, and even the types of lessons that they're doing that actually work well with that platform. The one was a kindergarten class I was sitting in on, and one thing that they were doing is having the kids. They're doing like a counting and math thing where they said, okay, what I need everyone to do now, as soon as I say go, run and find 4 shoes. Ready, set, go. And you see the 25 screens, all the kids vanished. And then they all come back and they're holding up 4 shoes. And the teacher's like, okay, next, I want you to find 5 spoons, but you have to put the shoes away first. And they vanish again. And then they go and they bring up all the spoons. And it was just remarkable to see, like, I mean, again, 4 months ago, everyone would have said it can't be done. But in the circumstances where there was no choice, it's not a replacement. Obviously in person is better, but it's working better than I think people would have ever imagined.
But what was that class for? The one you just described?
That was a kindergarten class.
So they were identifying things and finding things and
counting colors, numbers, because sometimes it was associated with colors as well. All types of things. It was essentially it was like a playful scavenger hunt. Yeah.
Yeah, we've had scavenger hunts in the house where the kids are just tearing through. I need a zip tie. I need a black zip tie. All right. My Brian, my older daughter's boyfriend, is a phys ed teacher, and he's working from he said longer hours than he would normally work.
Yeah.
Checking stuff out, and
I am too. Yeah.
Sending in videos. My daughter was doing push-ups, video push-ups, to send in to her teacher. It was a struggle at first, but it's we're kind of settling into it. It's strange.
Yeah.
What people can.
I think a lot of teachers are kind of getting a puppeteer's perspective too, because in the same way you're always puppeteering and looking at a monitor, now I'm looking at a monitor, looking at myself, and it is making me like reevaluate some of my own lessons in teaching as well. Now that I get to reflect on it in a different way, kind of like monitor puppetry, which is kind of funny.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how. Entertainment industry, of course, will change, but how schooling changes, how teachers. What they learn, what they will decide not to go back to. One
thing I was talking to one of my teacher friends the other day too, and one thing that I realized is in Buffalo we have a lot of snow. We probably had our last snow day ever. It's not going to happen again. It's going to be a virtual teaching day from home instead, which is just something to think about. Even if everything went back to normal like this, the infrastructure has probably changed enough that a lot of things wouldn't be the same anyway. Again, it was something as simple as a snow day.
You're right. I never thought of that.
Yeah.
There was one year here when my first 3 kids were little. We had 15 snow days. They were in for 3 extra weeks.
Oh yeah. Yep, that would have been. You would have lost any days. You would have. It would be a virtual teaching now. No missing of the curriculum.
And it's they've alter the laws to accredit that type of thing, and so it would be considered a school day in the year. Amazing.
Yeah. It's really it's changed a lot. But we did want it to going to lighter subjects. Did want to I'm actually not sure how much later this is, but we wanted to talk to you about your Halloween horror musical that finally was able to happen off Broadway last October and November, All Hallows Eve. Can you tell us how that went and what that process was like? Yeah.
That was a heck of a project. Well, I mean, you were there at the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Originally, it was an idea well, it was an idea, before I did it up at the O'Neill, but Pam, offered me a slot as a guest artist in 2013 to produce a scene from that, a 20-minute scene, which was at that point really the only fully written scene that existed. I had an outline for the beginning and a kind of a loose outline for the end, and so that was an experiment to see how it would work. And after that, I had such a good time. We had such a good time doing that I kept working on it, kept writing. It became the project that was always there, and it was always in my mind, and it started to hurt not to do it. I would say I'd get onto something else, or I would think about it, and it would physically hurt me. And I finally said, okay, stupid, listen. So I just committed to to taking the hurt away, and to following this path of this project that I obviously needed to do. So I did a lot of writing on it, a lot of rewrites, a lot of building, and then got the residency up at the O'Neill. There's the residency that the O'Neill and Henson Foundation put together. I applied to that, but I also wrote a cover letter, which was, listen, I know that there's a massive conflict of interest here. Me being on the foundation board and being staff at the O'Neill. So I said, I'm gonna apply anyway, but I realized that this is probably, no is probably the answer I should receive for this. But I didn't, but again, I didn't want that to stop me. So and as I talked to the people involved, and sure enough, it was just I had pulled off of the foundation board to apply, but it was still too much. It was too many associations. So I made a private deal with the O'Neill, with Preston Whiteway at the O'Neill, and to find a time, because he had seen the original project that we did in 2013 and believed in it. I'd sent him the updated script. They talked to Tom. I apologize, Tom. One of the other movers and shakers up at the O'Neill, and he wanted the project up there, so we found a time when the O'Neill was empty. There was no food service, no NTI happening. We went up in February. Tom Bertel really believed in the project and gave me a lot of encouragement on it. So we went up in February. I put got my cast and my little crew together, and had built everything, and we slogged that thing together. We had 2 weeks to get it on its feet, to see what it was. Paul was there with Paul Rudolph, the composer, and we had another keyboardist as well, and the most marvelous cast. Sometimes all you have to do is surround yourself with really, really brilliant people, and you can't fail. I mean, I had Jen Barnhart and Tyler Bunt, Spencer Lott, Austin Costello, Aubrey Kleindinsk, who was in the original one.
Haley Jenkins,
Paul McGinnis. Oh God!
Did we say Tyler?
I said Tyler.
Okay.
Tyler, there's so much of Tyler in that show. It's just astounding, the amount of input. And I when we finally did it, I had to write this paragraph, which was, listen, folks, this, my name is on it as writer and director, but but this is a group project. it would not be anything near what you're seeing tonight without this specific cast. Their input was just so generous and so wonderful, so creative. So after we did it, and with Ulysses Jones and Megan McNerney and their funny little boy, they were doing the tech for it, and we were just living up there. There was no food, so we cook our own food after every show, and we're living in the houses, and nobody else was there, not a soul, and we just had run of the place. And who knew that the barn was actually a warm place in the winter?
Oh,
yeah,
would never have guessed that.
In there, it's always the place would cool down at all,
right?
When we're there in the summer, but the audiences kind of were digging on it, and it turned into this whole moving audience, scene specific place.
You were telling us last time when you were on the show, because I think by that point you had done the residency, and you were saying how it was this great immersive theater thing, taking people through that barn, which is, it's a cavernous space, but it's also, there's some really interesting architecture. That had to be a difficult thing to then go and find a theater to recreate that in when you took it to New York.
Yeah, it was, that was one of my main concerns is, will I ever find a space like the barn, the Rose Barn Theater, which I just love. I consider that one of the great performing spaces. And Jean Marie Keevans had a relationship with the Connolly Theater, and I had been down there. We did a benefit down there that I hosted years ago for Emily DeCola. And so I kind of knew this moldering old theater, and so we went down there and we met with Josh Luxembourg, who manages it. And when I started walking through this theater, the whole play unfolded itself for me, moment to moment, as I walked through. And I said, okay, this is where this happens, and we'll do this scene here, and the audience will go through this door, and then they'll go around, and the whole thing laid itself out, and so we made a deal. We made a deal with Josh and the Connolly Theater to somebody had it booked. This is the fall of the year before last.
Okay, fall of 18.
Yes, fall of 18, and somebody had a tentative booking for October of 2019, but they were actually flexible and were able to move to a different time. So we got the time slot we wanted. We gave them a down payment, and we received the Henson Foundation grant for the project grant right around that time, and we were off and running. As soon as we established that theater and got that grant, which were pretty close to each other, I crewed up. I made sure I had the cast that I wanted, and started crewing up, getting stage managers and riggers, and rewriting my terrible script to turn it into something that I really, really wanted to do, and it all came together. It was, it's something I could go into detail for hours and hours.
Yeah, no, it was fun to watch it kind of come to its feet virtually from where we were, because on Instagram and on Facebook there was constant updates and shout outs and stuff that the cast was doing, which was really fun to watch.
You didn't see it, did you, Adam?
You know what? I bought tickets to support it, but it was right around when my daughter was born, so I wasn't able to trek from Buffalo to New York for it, but I did want to support it. But yeah, it was so awesome to see all that interaction that they were having through social media.
Yeah, they that was important, and something that Jean Marie Keevans took care of. Cam, did you see it?
I wasn't able to get down there, unfortunately. I know I so badly. I can't remember what specific work event that I had that was a non-negotiable, like just that time of the year. But I also made sure that I was, supporting it, and I was texting Austin Costello every night practically when he was, on the subway back to from the theater, and he was filling me in on stuff. I would have loved to have gotten down there for it.
One of the tricky parts with it was how many people we could fit in. And and I wanted it that same moving audience immersive thing, and there were some bottlenecks. There were some serious bottlenecks, and there's a double door from the lobby. We started it in the lobby, and luckily there were 2 lobbies. So there was the lobby where people met, but there was this other kind of addendum lobby that where normally would have just been for people milling around before they went into the theater. It's also kind of theater staff space. We co-opted that. That was we turned that into the first scene, where and you go in and the audience thinks they're gonna see this horribly simple-minded, bucolic Halloween show with Mom. How long have you all been there? Let's all say happy Halloween, everybody. Just corny as heck. And and then it gets darker and darker and darker until it gets pretty much as dark as my mind could go with it. So that the audience was hooked, thinking, okay, this is the one thing. And then realize, oh my God, this is not a nice puppet show anymore. And I gave Haley Jenkins that line where she turns to the audience when she's being tortured and terrified and literally tortured by these horrible big things, and she turns it. This is not a very nice puppet show anymore. I still love that line so much. But because of these bottlenecks, and I realized that the show actually all takes place in real time. There's no time passage where I'm asking the audience, okay, the next day, or okay, 5 hours later, or okay, not 5 minutes later. No, it was all happened in real time
from
the moment you stepped in to the moment you left.
Wow.
And and I wanted that experience to really be there for the audience.
That's got to be hard to write something like that.
I don't know. That's what I wanted to write, so that's what I wrote. But we did computer models. The set designers, the Swader brothers, did computer models of the area and said, okay, this is how big a person is, and they dropped as many people into this computer model as they could. And we decided if with the theater, of course, holds, I don't know, 200-300 people, with the risers all set up, watching it as a normal theatrical space. We took out all the risers. We emptied the theater and turned the entire floor of the theater into a performing space. We actually used the stage least of all. we just put the big characters up on stage and kind of mocked it up like it was a big music box, and they were big kind of marionette music box creatures. But we could only fit 35 people through the bottlenecks. So that's how many seats we sold per show,
per night,
which meant that we of course lost money on the deal. But that's what could safely go through there and still see the show, and that's what we ended up with.
Yeah. Is there a future for this? Do you have plans to bring it back in any way or expand on it?
I would love to. I love the project. I believe in it. A lot of the people believe in it. I believe the cast would come back in a heartbeat. Any of them, all of them. But the project cost twice as much as it raised.
Yeah.
And and that was all out of my pocket.
Yeah.
Me, and Paul Rudolph also ended up quite a bit out of pocket for the incredible band that he put together. So you got to save up for jobs like this.
Yeah.
I could produce it again without for not quite as much money.
Yeah.
But I would like to upgrade. I don't necessarily want to do the same production.
Yeah.
I want it to be bigger, better. I want to pay my actors more is what I want to do.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Pay my crew more. So I would like to bump up to a real contract, and I would like to not pay for it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, put that in someone else's. Yeah, no, that's so great to hear, and I think that's what I think so many artists deal with that as well, in that doing their art in a way to fund other projects that they want to do, their pet projects. So I think that's going to be really relatable to a lot of people. I hope that you're able to get an archive even for your own record of it. Were you able to do that?
We have there's video of it, and if I needed to put together a sizzle reel or some kind of compilation. I mean, I had to put together a 4-minute reel for the the final report to the Henson Foundation.
Of course, yeah.
But I love theater, and there's theater is not media. Theater is not video.
Yeah.
It's you got to be there. You gotta experience it. It's just such an anemic representation of it to have it on video at all.
Well, this harks back to what we were just talking with Pam Arciero on in one of our very recent episodes when she came back on, and that's what she was talking about, though. Like, yes, it'll never be the same experience, but for at least for archival purposes, just so there can be like a historical record of what happened. Especially if it was, who knows, maybe 100 years from now, someone wants to revive it, almost the way a Shakespeare thing is revived. There's some sort of foundation. So what we're talking about with her is trying to find a way to create some kind of world puppetry archive thing that necessarily isn't public. It's more like a research gathering of all these video archives. And Cameron, what were some of the examples that she mentioned? Do you remember of things that are just lost?
She was. I think one of the things we referenced was the Dick Myers project that Seth Schaefer did, and how he was able to resurrect that show. Using the same puppets, some of the same blocking, recreating some other things with people like Rachel Rockaburton, and that was kind of the vein in which Pam was talking about, but to your point, saying that it's never the same as the real show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but right, and it's one of the things that we've been working on. That Pam has been working on a lot with the O'Neill, and the O'Neill staff too is archiving the stuff, making some kind of go to source for this stuff. Robert Smythe was working on that a lot too.
Yeah,
he was that was really an important thing to him. That some classic bits be able to be preserved. They deserve that, and so that a puppet company could say, I want to do the Java bit from the Muppets originally did, or the one that Smythe did with the apple puppet, and that where he eats the apple head, and it's a brilliant bit.
It's such a tough thing to right? It's this weird thing of like from the theater perspective versus the performer's perspective, because there are certainly works of puppetry theater. You could point to things like what Ronnie does, or like the Dick Myers project, where like, oh yeah, let's create this, and then how much of it I feel like there's almost a stigma is the wrong word, but because there's so much of a performer's personality that's put into those characters, because God, I would never publicly, have a telly puppet, for instance, and perform it and just say like, this is mine. And there are so many legal reasons in addition, but also, it's such a personal thing. And I could see where those two parts of the creative soul are almost at spar with each other.
It's very true.
Yeah.
You wouldn't, but Ronnie Burkett's pieces, his writing is so freaking brilliant.
Yes.
But and you wouldn't want anyone but somebody as brilliant as Ronnie performing Ronnie's brilliant scripts. 50 years from now, 100 years from now, those scripts will still be brilliant. Is the industry, the puppet industry, the art of puppet being served by losing that, or just having it, oh, this is just a written thing, or should that be something that goes into the
the archive. I think the answer is too just like that clear divide, whether it's being filmed purely for archive or if it's being filmed to be viewed for entertainment purposes. And I think I think more people should try to archive everything that they're doing from that standpoint. But I think their fear is that it'll get out and people will judge it as a performance rather than what it is as an archive.
But Ronnie's pieces should be published as published plays. How you produce that, and people might produce it differently than he did.
Right. And I believe he actually, he's told me before that his scripts are available for purchase. I forget through where, because it's not like on his own website, but you could buy the texts.
But to perform them?
Oh, I see. That I'm not sure about.
Yeah.
I would imagine not.
I would imagine not, but I wonder, down the line whether that would ever change, whether how he would feel about that, or how the art form of puppetry as it as we are controlling it now, being puppeteer entrepreneurs, and how it moves into the future. I think there's stuff that deserves to be handed down to into the lexicon of puppetry for future generations.
Absolutely.
The stuff that the Bert Tillstrom did. I mean, there's somebody the hand stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's been picked up and taken other places by other people, but some of the actual bits that he did were lovely, and it would be nice to be able to see those again with live hands in a performance situation.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that you love, right? Being able to talk these things through with other puppeteers and just try to keep that history alive, whether through talking or through the performance is really exciting.
Yeah. And people have my dear wife has said, would you allow All Hallows Eve to go out there and be performed and directed by somebody else? That would be interesting. At this point, I'm kind of proprietary about it. But I would love to see what somebody else would do with it. So the idea of publishing it, putting it out there, making it available, if somebody felt strongly enough that they wanted to produce it, Yes, I would really love to see that.
Yeah. Well, I guess what I would ask to that too is, does your experience with Little Shop affect that decision? Because I'm
I
sure
was
you've
just thinking
seen
that,
many
yeah.
different versions of Little Shop. Some that maybe opened your eyes to other possibilities. Some that were, fit the glove that you would have imagined it being, and other ones you're like, bold move. To
Maybe
put it
screen
nicely.
the movie next time.
But I mean, you're right. It's exactly that. It's a grab bag.
Yeah.
And I saw the Broadway version, and I saw a video portions of the one. Where was it? At La Jolla?
It was out in, was it San Francisco? I think Sean Qualty worked on and built some of the puppets for it.
Saw was that the production where the plant was very very much like a flower.
Yes, in purple instead of green. Yes.
Yeah, that must be the one. It was just brilliant, just gorgeous and brilliant. And I didn't see. I saw a video of the little guy working, which was just spectacular. I didn't see any video of the big guy working, so I don't know how that design translated to it. When I did it, I was working closely with Howard and Howard's vision and my vision. So, but it's not the only way to do it.
Yeah.
It's and the only thing is, if you're gonna change it for good reasons. Change it for solid reasons that you can support, not just for the sake of change. Not just because I did it one way, that you have to do it another way. The Broadway version was the Monkey Boys did that, and it was very very much in line with my design, which is why they ultimately had to pay me. They actually had to one of the agent who represents me with this show at William Morris went to see it and said, "Wait a second," and took the producers aside, and it turned out they had to pay me a full design fee.
Oh my God.
Which I was, when I went to see it, that's okay. Yeah. This is right. It's not. So yeah. So I. But it's an interesting production. I could.
Yeah. This got me thinking, and it's something I think you and I have talked a little bit in person about this, but Howard Ashman is one of my, the idols. Beauty and the Beast is by far, it's been talked to death, my favorite, movie ever. Did you have a relationship with Howard beyond Little Shop? Because I think he did some stuff for Sesame, or maybe that was Alan.
Alan did stuff for Sesame. Alan was actually working on Sesame Street the day I agreed to do the project.
Oh wow!
Was there? The Count, I think, had done. Was doing one of his songs, and I had told Howard that I would think about it. I mean, I'm sure I told you the story last time. I'll think about it. Don't think about it. Because it didn't pay, and I had made myself a promise that I had to get paid for what I did. But I had just done my first season of Sesame, so I blessedly, thankfully broke that rule. But yeah, no, Alan worked on Sesame, and yes, I did have a relationship with Howard. I absolutely adored that man. And most what we did was, of course, with Little Shop of Horrors. The production here originally at the WPA Theater, which was just a showcase production. 18 shows, I think it was 22 shows back then. I don't know. I don't remember what the showcase code was back then. 24 performances, maybe that's what it was. A 99-seat house. And then the LA production and a little bit on the London production. But he was very, very, very dear to me.
Yeah, I mean, just what he was able to do. There's some really great archival tapes that Disney has of him playing out on the piano and tinkering with the songs, which is really special. But there's actually, I think there's, I don't know if it's come out yet, but there's a documentary coming out about him, and a lot of people who knew him in life who talk about him. And yeah, can't wait to see it. Yeah. Something else before we start to wrap up, and this is something. So you now are the third person to rejoin us on the show. We've had Jim back, we've had Pam back now, and now you. But something that we asked her was, you've been interviewed by us now twice. You've done all sorts of interviews for all sorts of other projects that you've worked on over the years. Has there ever been anything that you've wished that you could have talked about, that a soapbox that you want to stand on, of something that a story you've not been able to tell, or a philosophy that you've wanted to share that it's like, why haven't these people asked me?
Yeah, you might want to try me on that for the third time.
Fair enough.
Didn't I say that?
Adam did. Yeah, because I dropped that one on Pam it was something that I hadn't even thought of asking her. And when I told Adam, I was like, I think I'll ask Marty that because I like that question. And he was like, you got to tell these people that they're going
to. That's a big one. Yeah.
Not that I want to.
So wait, well, let's document this. You were right, Adam.
Thank you.
Not that I would want to necessarily pre-plan an answer, but
no.
But it's such an interesting thought.
It'll come to you as soon as you hang up. So
yeah.
Right. I talked with Matt Vogel, and I did a 2 hour and 17 minutes. I know because I recorded it all on my phone and had to upload the whole thing. On the below the frame.
Oh yeah.
That he does, and he was asking me if I had any, burning projects, any things that I was just dying to do, and I was dying to do All Hallows Eve, and as I said, I had to do that project from hell or high water, and at times it was kind of a march through the gulags. Because I probably talked about this maybe last time, but I had a big chunk of time before rehearsal started in September. So we had it booked for September 22nd for rehearsals, and all of a sudden I booked Helpsters. They started talking in December, and I booked that thing in January, and all of a sudden an entire 7 months of building and rewrites and pre-production disappeared. And so I had to so from January, February, March, we started Helpsters in March. I had to build like every day. There was no days off. I was building, I was inventing, I was buying materials, I was doing it all myself. I did bring an assistant on here in the shop, and and then every weekend when we were doing Helpsters, I was doing rewrites, I was building, and so we finally and then Helpsters got extended.
Oh jeez.
Like, oh my God! So Helpsters finally wrapped September 20th, and my rehearsal date was September 22nd to start with All Hallows Eve, and that was it. So I, and so we did it, and we got it on its feet, and when we did the dress rehearsal, and I thought, this is the worst show ever. It's just nothing but me massaging my ego. It's just a piece of crap. And then we had opening night. I said, hey, this is not bad. and then I got better and better. And by the time we closed, I was so grateful and so happy. and I had done what I wanted to do. And I'm not the kind of person that has to go on to the next project. That's okay, this is done, boom, on to the next one. I'd done that, and I was fine with it. And Matt asked me, are you dying to do it again? No, I'm not dying to do it again. I'll do it again, and I would love to do it again under certain circumstances. I'm not dying to do it again.
Sounds like you're dying for a vacation.
Yeah.
I'm getting, I really hate to talk about the good time I'm having here at home, but I'm crazy about my wife. I love my kids.
Yeah.
I love my home. I live in the middle of nowhere. I don't have any neighbors. I've been I entirely missed last spring. Just missed it. Yeah. And this spring I am watching every flower come up, and I am appreciating everything when the oak trees are just now getting their leaves out. The mimosa tree is just putting its buds out. I put in 7 rhododendrons and a bunch of azaleas, and I'm digging out and planting grass seed, and I'm really enjoying being here, not going anywhere, cooking for my little girls. I know how to relax too.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah. Michael J. Fox talks about this a lot, of the idea of inertia, of how once you're going and you can't stop, and it's really hard to come to that thing. But as soon as you're sedentary, it's really hard to get back going again. And that always resonated with me, of like, you work really hard, get nose to the grindstone, but as soon as someone gives you an out, it's like, I'm just gonna stay on my couch, or go on a bike ride, or watch the flowers grow.
And it's surprising to me how some people, you got to do it, onto the next thing, onto the I've got this thing with Cam and Adam at 3:30 on Friday. Okay, so all week it's like, I've got this thing at 3:30 on Friday, this deadline. And maybe I should study. Maybe I should listen to this. Maybe I should, I'm gonna have to take a shower that day. I'm gonna have to actually wear a shirt. All of a sudden I'm putting all these plans and shoulds and things. I said, this is a no-brainer. I don't have to be stressed over this. And I found myself building up a little fake stress, because that's what I'm used to using that to drive my motivation. I can do without that.
Yeah. Well, let me just say, as someone who's had you in his coffee table books behind him for 20 odd years, the fact that Marty Robinson would have ever stressed over anything about me or Adam is wild.
Yeah, and and all that gardening, watch out for any strange and unusual looking plants. You never know what you might find, especially in Marty Robinson's house. But one more thing that I also asked Pam that I want to ask you too is there anything else you would like to see in the puppetry world? Is there something that you'd like to see more of that's not either doesn't have enough attention, or do you think people just aren't doing as much?
I still, we always want to see something that's really personal. Telling a story is, I love stories, and I love that we're storytellers, and that puppetry is so conducive to that. But what really interests me is seeing, is revealing the heart and soul of the performer or performers, or whoever's the creator of a project. I want to know. I want to see that you've spilled your guts, in a very revealing way, and that can, and that doesn't mean tragedy or horror. Spill your guts comedy, spill your guts something just that's so intensely personal that only you could have done this. Only you could have written and performed this project. That's what I miss. We get so caught up in the,
Trends.
and in what's in the cuteness of puppetry and the and the fact that we can say anything, and it's the novelty of the art form, as opposed to use it as an opportunity to dig deep, to really reveal something that's just profoundly important to it. Even that little teleport video that I did, that was intensely personal. If there's anything that you liked about that video, that's because I put it there. It's because that's the way I feel about things. It's because that was the relationship with my mom, just in a tiny little nutshell. So it's very personal, and I think we should be encouraged to do more of that. You think, people don't want to. People would be afraid of if I showed the interview, or they would be turned off, or they'd be disgusted, or they wouldn't like me. Give them the blood and guts. Give them whatever makes you laugh. Most hysterical.
It's amazing how much people relate to specificity. You think, I need to be as broad as possible so that people will connect with it. And the more you're able to give of yourself, somehow, some way, that's what people most are stimulated by, and what it's that rush of seeing a really good story being told.
Yeah, it's about showing your vulnerability and letting people really see you. And I think that's like you said, that's what people relate to the most.
When and it was my epiphany with Kelly. And Kelly was where I crossed the boundary, and I'd been doing it 8 years, and I was doing a show where all this, for some reason, I was just going quickly, and all of a sudden didn't care. And just for some reason, I didn't give a hoot what people thought of me or at that moment, and all this weird personal stuff started coming out, and everyone woke up and went, "Oh God, that was just so intensely personal. How could you possibly relate to it?" Well, as I said, Cam, they do. That's the works of the charm. That went on with that character. I just put my soul on display with that. So he's just a raw nerve, and I love the way that people react to my strange raw nerves. It turns out it's somewhat useful after all.
It's like, I have something that's worth other people liking me for. Yeah.
And the thing that you think other people will hate and revile in you, that's what they tend to go for and really relate to.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
All that time hiding who you really are and trying to be like everyone else. And there's a untapped universe in all of us. Just trying to get out. So yeah.
No, that's beautiful.
Personal stuff.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's sorry, were you about to say something?
Nope, go ahead.
Okay. No, I think that's a really beautiful sentiment, and so appreciate you sharing that. I think that's a great place to.
Well, actually, one thing before you get into the puppeteers, though. Yeah,
Sure.
I wasn't sure if you were gonna.
No. Sorry,
I
was gonna. I was gonna.
No. And I'm not sure if this is gonna be something you want to talk about, or we can just end up cutting it or not. But on your website, I noticed that there's this project that you're working on. It's a new book that you're working on. Ruba and Ruba and Cobalt.
Ruba and Cobalt. Yes. Thank you actually for bringing it up. That is a project that actually is hurting me, that I'm not doing.
Yeah.
It's something that we start. Annie and I started that. We were getting into that, and then we got pregnant. And all of a
really?
sudden,
So this has been around for people who don't know what we're talking about. That's you're writing a children's book, and on your website there's apparently you have a dummy version of it available if agents are interested. But there are some beautiful illustrations that look very playful. It says a preschool book series for the spirited child.
Yes. And Annie and I have a spirited child. We have two twins, and one of them is spirited. It used to be called Problem Child.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, I see.
But also takes life with both hands and screams, "You stupid! I hate you! You stupid head!" Daily. And oh yeah, we love you too. So Ruba is this little wild child that I just love drawing. When I very I'll sit and draw. The premise, which I still just love, is that Ruba isn't a drawing. He's just a little boy who lives on paper.
Mm.
Actually, people think that he's a girl. He's a little entity, and that the what you see of him, when you see Ruba, is actually him. It's not a drawing of him; it's him, and it's a strange little concept, but that he lives on the pages and he deals with pages as a creature would that lives on a page.
Yeah.
One where we're playing hide and seek.
Yeah, well, I'm looking at a picture of it now, and it kind of just, even this one illustration alone kind of tells that part of the story, because it's little Ruba sticking it to his tongue out, and while the hand's like illustrating the character.
Oh yeah. So he hates the person who draws him, and just always is complaining. But then there's this one of the books that we put together is he's the greatest hide and seek player ever. That's it. You will never find him. You turn the page and you find him right away, and then he gets pissed. And then you're not going to find me this time. You turn the page and you find him, and then he gets pissed and angry, and I'm not going to play with you anymore. And he crumples up the page that he's on, and crumples part of himself as well, and starts ripping.
Oh, wow.
Then and at one point I think he digs a hole to try to get away from the reader, and digs a hole through the page, and gets and find him on the other side of the page with a shovel, and hates you even more. And then he there's some very elaborate illustrations where he's hiding. He's just set up this whole thing where you couldn't possibly find him, and of course it's set up so you can eventually find him, and then he eventually hides him in the binding of the book.
Oh, great!
And all you see is can you see me now?
Yeah.
And then there's nothing there, another thing. And so and then on the next page, he sticks his little hand out from the binding, waves at you. So it's things like that, interacting with the kid with the reader as a giant, 3D person who's and how he feels and plays with this black guy. So it's so much fun when you take that little framework and you take that premise. Okay, here's the premise, and now you got to stick within that. And for me, I would really very much like to see that project too. And
Yeah, that's so awesome. And I love how, in the same way we always ask why puppets, because so it can be something that nothing else that puppets can do. It's kind of what you're doing with this story. It can't really be told in any other way, which is so cool. And I can't wait to see that come to fruition.
Yeah, I should start working on that now.
Yeah, put the flowers down for the 2 hours a day and get.
I'll have time for karate class, my new piano lessons, and I'm going to pull out all the Ruba stuff and look at it. Thank you. I will revisit that. I have hundreds and hundreds of Ruba illustrations.
Wow.
I'll just sit there and just having a coffee, and there'll be 5 of them there.
Can't wait to see it.
Yeah, me neither. Excellent.
All right. Next time.
Now you're allowed to go, Cam.
Okay, thank you. Well, Marty, you know the drill. As we wrap up, we ask to gather around the puppeteer fire and see if you have a good puppeteer story in the spirit of Jim Krupa. And you told a bunch of really great ones last time. If there's maybe one from either All Hallows Eve or Helpsters that you want to share of a moment where you wanted to pull your hair out in the moment. But
last time you
back,
mentioned
we get to laugh.
Last time you mentioned about that time you were performing and your shoes were sticking to the stage, which was a really fun story. But also one thing that you mentioned in the last one, if you were willing to share one of these, you kind of casually said there have been many times that you've crashed and burned while doing Snuffy. And I thought maybe one of those stories might be funny if you have one.
Oh, God, no.
If you can.
They're not that interesting.
They're not. Okay.
You run into things and you fall down. oh God, he's dead.
Each story probably ends the way an old Muppet skit used to. An explosion or something gets eaten, right?
Somebody put a crate down where I wasn't expecting it, and it wasn't in my mental map, and I hit the crate. Boom! Ass over tea kettle with Bryant on top of me. But we've never hurt ourselves in it. That's the other. When we were doing Helpsters, and I don't know if this is a pull your hair out story, but we had a lot of every episode has a guest star right now, and I mean on the show who's just great, and God, just one wonderful person after another, and admittedly, sometimes there were people who who's this, and they would explain it to me and say, okay, well, I've heard of them, and then they booked Danny Trejo.
Oh wow!
Yeah. I don't think that episode.
I don't think that's come out yet.
Because it's Danny Trejo to play Cookie Cornelius, this guy who all he wants to do is open a cookie cart, and I said to the cast people, thank you 1,000 times. And Danny shows up, and with Danny Trejo, you get Danny Trejo. I mean, that's what you
see is what you get.
yeah, and he was just wonderful, and it was. And there was a scene with he and Mr. Primm, where Mr. Primm is pulling him in, and it made it very intimate. And I saw that Danny was willing to go in this direction, and I'm very far down. Kind of went nose to nose. I think we actually went nose to nose with Mr. Primm's long nose, and so we were actually speaking this close, and it was kind of a personal, heartfelt little scene with just the two of us. And at the end of the scene, we closed our eyes, and we knew it was coming. He reached down below frame and took my hand and just held it, just squeezed it for a moment. And it was so sweet. and so I I was so grateful to for him that he was willing to go there, and he was grateful to me that that I pulled him in and didn't make it something silly or stupid or cheap or something even expected, something very unexpected, and I just loved the way he kind of thanked the gods of performing for that, and I probably shed a little tear there. That was very nice.
Yeah. Wow, that's really beautiful. I can't wait to see that episode now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this might be a special feature that comes out later because our episodes have to be approved by Sesame Workshop with Helpster content. So if the episode's not out, I imagine this might make sure you come back and for the full puppeteer story from Martin P. Robinson. Stay tuned. But no, that's so awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that story with us, Martin. And we know one of the best places for people to follow your work and to find out more about your book that you're working on and other projects is martinprobinson.com. Is there anywhere else you'd like to point people to?
No, that's it. There's an All Hallows Eve website, but that was all leading up to the production down at the Connolly Theater.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all kind of dated at this point.
Mm-hmm.
There's that website has not been updated for a while. I don't know if we ever finished it. I think there's still some places where it says Martin Robinson puts content in here, please.
Well, yeah, we're giggling about that earlier because it says new projects, and we're like, I wonder how new that is.
Right? No, there's nothing. There's nothing new on that. It's my dear sister-in-law, who is a brilliant webmaster.
Yeah, wonderful,
awesome.
So we should update that.
Well, Martin Robinson, thank you so much for spending another round of time with us. This has been so good to talk to you, and wishing you and your family all the health and safety, and until we see you next time.
All right.
Yeah, this was great. Thanks. Bye.
Yeah.
Hi, Maxie. I'm going out with my mom. Look what I'm gonna wear. Don't worry. It's important for us to wear them now to keep me safe and others safe too. They protect me and I protect them. Hey, how about this? Come on, let's go see if Mom can tell us apart.